at Brands Hatch today, the 10th and vital Grand Prix of the year, the British Grand Prix, which could well change the whole World Championship situation. And it's a race that's already had drama and controversy. Drama when Nigel Mansell was fined for starting problems in the Detroit Grand Prix. Drama when the whole Tyrrell team was banned from further Grand Prix, but not this one, thank heavens, for alleged fuel irregularities. Drama when Johnny Cecotto, the Venezuelan driver, crashed his Tolman in the first session of practice, breaking both ankles and his knee. But in pole position in this very car, the reigning world champion, Nelson Piquet. In this year's World Championship, Alain Prost is leading his teammate Niki Lauda by a massive 10.5 points and will still lead the championship at the end of today, whatever happens. Third, Elio De Angelis. Fourth, René Arnoux. Fifth, Keke Rosberg. Sixth, Nelson Piquet. Seventh, Derek Warwick. And note how close the second, third, fourth and fifth men are. In the Constructors' Championship, McLaren have a massive lead over Ferrari, with JPS third, Williams fourth, and then Brabham and Renault. But on the grid, Nelson Piquet in a brilliant 13th pole position in his career, ahead of the two McLaren men, Alain Prost and Niki Lauda, with Elio De Angelis fourth, Keke Rosberg fifth, Derek Warwick sixth, Ayrton Senna seventh, Nigel Mansell in 8th position, and the other British driver, Jonathan Palmer, 23rd, for what should be a great race. Pole position, Nelson Sotomayor Piquet. Sotomayor is his real name. Piquet is his mother's maiden name, and that was the name he used when he started racing. Alain Prost, the Frenchman, with 3 wins this year, an incredible record, leads the World Championship by 10.5 points. Third on the grid, one of the very greatest of all time, Nicolas Andreas Lauda, the Austrian double world champion. 2 first places this year, a second, 24 points. The man who opted out of Grand Prix racing for 2 years because he was bored of it. Elio De Angelis, the Italian who has been wonderfully consistent this year. There have been 9 Grand Prix races so far. He has scored World Championship points, as you can see, in 8 of them. And De Angelis, number 11 on the grid in his JPS Lotus with its V6 Renault engine, is third in the championship with 23.5 points. 75 laps, 196 miles. Piquet left front, Prost right front. Behind Piquet is Niki Lauda. Behind Prost is De Angelis. Behind Lauda is Rosberg. Behind De Angelis is Warwick. And Ayrton Senna is on the left-hand side of your picture, 4 cars back. Into paddock. De Angelis sprints through. And they're all away, clear and running, an excellent start. Piquet leads into Druids. Piquet leads out of Druids, down into Graham Hill Bend. Then it is Alain Prost second, De Angelis third, Lauda fourth, Warwick fifth, and Nigel Mansell up into 6th position. And off goes the ram at the bottom of Graham Hill of Philippe Alliot. Eddie Cheever was involved, and so was Stefan Johansson, the Swedish driver, in the second of the 2 Tyrrells, deputising for the injured Martin Brundle. Philippe Alliot gone off. There he was, getting out seemingly okay, out of the ram heart. Excitement right in the opening stages of the British Grand Prix, with Nelson Piquet leading, Prost second, De Angelis third, Lauda, Warwick, then Rosberg and Mansell and Michele Alboreto. René Arnoux well down the field, and here are the tail-enders going through as the leaders come through into Clark Curve, out of Clearways, into the Bradford Straight, completing the first lap with Piquet building up a lead. And Eddie Cheever's very damaged Alfa Romeo, a dreadful season for Cheever since he went to Alfa Romeo from the Renault team last year.
We've got a fire extinguisher going off. All the smoke, that's probably the onboard fire extinguisher, or maybe the marshal's just giving it a bit of a blowout. They've just, you see, they've covered it in foam, and it looks much more spectacular than it is. This was the incident at Bottom Bend. Oh dear. We got a bit of a three-car pile-up. I can't see exactly what happened, but it was quite messy.
Indeed it was. Philippe Alliot mostly involved with that, out, and Nelson Piquet now on lap 3 out of 75, leading. Can he stay there? Alain Prost leading the World Championship by that clear 10.5 points. And there are those who say, and rightly so, that the championship is between the three men who are leading the British Grand Prix, those three men being Nelson Piquet very much on his own in the Brabham BMW team, because Theo Fabi, his teammate, has hardly had a chance to play himself in, and Alain Prost and Niki Lauda. And it's that order now. It is leading Nelson Piquet, Prost right on his tail, second. In the second, Marlboro McLaren Lauda, Warwick in the Renault fourth, the Angelis in the JPS Lotus fifth, and Keke Rosberg in the Williams Honda sixth.
Yes, and we're starting to see already the superior performance of the McLaren chassis as it's been this season. Brabhams have got a very good car. Piquet, they've got arguably, and in my opinion, the best driver. But Prost was getting very close to Piquet then. They're starting to pressurize him, as we expected. And I think Piquet, if he can get a result and beat a McLaren in this race, it will be a really sterling effort, because he wouldn't appear to have as fast a car as the two McLaren drivers.
And here is one of the Williams Hondas in the pits. It's that of Keke Rosberg. Keke Rosberg in trouble right at the beginning of the race, was in 6th position. And Ayrton Senna is there now. And that tube sticking in the middle of the front of Rosberg's helmet is to enable him to take liquid on during the race, because he, like all of them, loses a tremendous amount of body fluid during a Grand Prix. Piquet, Prost and Lauda. Look at the gap between Lauda in 3rd place and the next man up under the bridge, who should be Derek Warwick in the Renault, and indeed it is. Derek, who started 6th, and Keke Rosberg has a right turbo broken. Keke Rosberg's turbo has been broken. Well, if that's the case, then we've seen the last of Keke Rosberg in the British Grand Prix, because it takes long enough to change it to more than effectively put him out of the race, as we see Derek Warwick in 4th position. And now Prost easing away a little from Lauda, closing up a little on Piquet, but the Brazilian very much in charge. Round pattern, 140 miles an hour. Up to Druids, the slowest corner on the course. Prost closes right up under braking. Graham Hill Bend, 170 miles an hour at this point. Incredible, isn't it? Surtees, the left-hander. Change up into 4th from 3rd. And this is where Prost is really starting to challenge. If he gets a bit closer, quite a bit closer, he will be able to draft out of Piquet and pass him.
Yes, but that's the problem he's got, because the Brabham is so quick in a straight line that you saw Prost tucked up beautifully behind the Brabham then, and getting no advantage from the hole in the air that the Brabham was making, because McLaren has been winning its races on outstanding chassis performance, and they haven't really been the quickest in the straight line. Now here Prost is perfectly placed, but he just can't get the edge. Piquet pulls away on the straights, and that's being a big problem. He's perfectly placed again, and this is a chance for Prost, because if he can get inside Piquet into Paddock Bend, and he's having a look under braking, he's having a go at it. Well, he was really too far away. He had a look, he probably gave himself and Piquet a bit of a fright before he realised that it really wasn't on.
This is marvellous Grand Prix racing, and Nelson Piquet and Alain Prost there, between them this season, have won 5 Grand Prix, plus the 2 that Niki Lauda in 3rd position has won. So that's 7 of this year's 9 Grand Prix have been won by these 3 men.
The situation again, Prost is in the perfect position for the toe. Piquet makes the hole in the air, and still he can't pull him in. Funny enough, Piquet made a bit of an error, and Prost is trying to get inside. Now that's what Piquet mustn't do. He's got to get through. He can go into the corners slowly, but he must get out cleanly, because otherwise he'll be passed. And you're beginning to see a bit of a carbon copy of the Spanish Grand Prix about 4 years ago, when Gilles Villeneuve, for those enthusiasts who watch all the Grand Prix, they will remember when Villeneuve managed to hold up a train of about 5 cars for the whole race in a Ferrari that was totally inferior handling-wise, but was quick on the straights, and they couldn't pass him, and he blocked, and there's Prost, and he's got it. Oh, he's inside, he's got it this time. So Alain Prost takes the lead, and I suspect, and Lauda has taken advantage of Piquet's problem as Prost passed him, and I'm afraid that that isn't going to be a copy of that Spanish Grand Prix, because it rather looks as if the McLarens are going to go away. And now I think we are down to who can win out of the 2 McLaren drivers. They have no orders from their team. They would both like to beat each other very badly. Lauda more than Prost, because Prost would probably, if he's sensible, realise that 6 points will do him a lot of good anyway, so he won't be too combative. But Lauda really needs to beat Prost, and he's going to race him all the way.
This proves that John Barnard, the McLaren designer, has produced the car. And that is Theo Fabi's Brabham BMW. There is yet another Ram car. That's Jonathan Palmer's car down there. So both the Ram marches are out of the race. Theo Fabi is out of the race, and we're getting the demonstration that John Barnard has designed the car to beat.
Well, on the right-hand side of your screen, now you see Jonathan Palmer's had a really huge shunt, because you can see the damage to the car, you can see the damage to the tyre wall, but luckily I was trying to point out, and a little bit of a fire around the turbo. That is actually only oil, and the marshals will be able to put that out very easily. I don't think we're going to get anything dramatic there, but somebody ought to notice it and do something about it before the tanks explode. And here we have Alain Prost. He sold Piquet a little bit of a dummy going into paddock bend by staying behind him and pretending he wasn't going to overtake. He'd rehearsed it a lap before, and he's through.
Red flag waving, red flag waving. That means the race is going to be stopped. I don't know why. I'm looking around to get some knowledge and information on why, unless it means that Palmer's car, which was involved in that very heavy shunt, is blocking the course somewhere or other. But this is tremendously interesting, because it means that now on lap 13, what will almost certainly happen is that the race will be run in 2 parts, and the results will be decided on the accumulation of time of the 2 parts. And it was as well for Nelson Piquet, I think, that the race stopped, because Nelson came into the pits at that point, and that would have completely destroyed the battle for the lead, which had continued between Prost, Lauda and Piquet. And this is probably a bit of a blessed relief for Nelson Piquet, and obviously we'll let you know why the race has been stopped as soon as we know ourselves. And there's Niki Lauda. As usual, the first thing he always does when he takes his helmet off is, he's talking to Alan Jenkins and Steve Nichols, the 2 McLaren race engineers. Now, Keke Rosberg had actually rejoined the British Grand Prix just before it was stopped. It was not actually a broken turbo, it was a turbo pipe that was giving trouble. Obviously got some sort of a leak in it, as a result of which the boost pressure was going down, and therefore the performance. And they fixed that, and Rosberg had rejoined the race, albeit very, very well down, but in the running. And there, of course, is the answer to why the British Grand Prix has been stopped. The recovery of Joe Gartner's car, which is the one that you're looking at now, the Osella, which went out with Philippe Alliot's car, and Jonathan Palmer's car. After a delay of some 50 minutes to clear the debris, a restart of the British Grand Prix, the results of which are to be decided by the aggregate times of the 11-lap first and 60-lap second parts. The grid positions for the restart are the finishing positions for the first part. And here's how the grid looks. 19 starters, because Winkelhock is in the pits. Behind Prost on the right is Derek Warwick. Pace car brings up the rear. Hoog, Rotengatter, the Dutch driver in the Spirit, is there. For the second time, go! And this time, Alain Prost does it right from the beginning. Prost leads, Piquet second, Lauda third, the two Renaults fourth and fifth, followed by the two JPS Lotuses. Which of the two Renaults is it? It's Derek Warwick leading his teammate Patrick Tambay, and bringing up the rear with a successful negotiation of Graham Hill-Benn the first time in this restart was Francois Hainaut in the Ligier. And it's Prost, Piquet, Lauda.
It's the worst possible start for Niki Lauda, because the one thing he didn't want was Piquet to get out, to get between the two McLarens, because he will suspect that Piquet is not going to be as quick as Alain Prost. He'll have a great deal of difficulty, he knows, passing Nelson Piquet. As we discussed earlier, the Brabham is very fast in the straight line, which makes it exceptionally difficult to pass for anybody, let alone when Piquet is at the wheel. And it may be that Alain Prost can build a big lead once he settles before Lauda can get past Piquet. So Lauda would actually have preferred Piquet to get away off the line ahead of Prost, I would think. But Lauda now will be under pressure to look for a way around Nelson Piquet.
That's Jacques Lafitte out of the British Grand Prix, looking right down into the cockpit of the Renault, which, like the other turbo cars, is disposing some 700 brake horsepower in this race from its 1.5-litre V6 turbocharged engine. And Derek Warwick started the season so superbly when he was actually leading his first race for Renault in Brazil when his front suspension fractured and he fell out. Then was second in Belgium and third in South Africa and fourth in San Marino. And since then he has had nothing but problems. And Mansell is in trouble. Nigel Mansell touring. Oh dear, poor Nigel has had a most unhappy meeting and is now out of the Grand Prix because he has driven off the course. Nigel Mansell retires. Nigel Mansell's luck has got to change. He has led 2 Grand Prix. He was optimistic that he would do well in this one, at least finish in the points. It was not to be. This is De Cesaris, Arnoux, Alboreto, still 8th. And it's Prost leading, who is second. There goes the race leader, and here is the new second-place man. It's Niki Lauda, who has got past Nelson Piquet at Druids under braking. We now have the familiar situation of the 2 magnificent McLarens in first and second places.
Yes, we now have a couple of hypothetical questions posed. First of all, what can Lauda do about his teammate Alain Prost? Because Lauda would like to do a lot about it, i.e. get in front of him and beat him fair and square, which would make him very happy. Prost, on the other hand, isn't too worried because 6 points would do him very nicely, would slightly diminish his lead, but what he doesn't want to do is risk losing all points by making any mistakes. He's going to be taking no risks.
It's Boutsen, Thierry Boutsen, and this is beginning the British Grand Prix to look like a Monaco race because there have been a lot of retirements. Patrick Tambay is in 5th position. Elio De Angelis in the black and gold John Player Special is really charging, and De Angelis has been accused in the past of sometimes getting disinterested in the race, but certainly not this season. This is the battle for 8th, which continues. And Arnoux is now shaping up to go through and he's going to do it as out of the pits. Now, that's completely blocked Arnoux.
Yes, that was a cruel piece of luck after a lot of battle, because Arnoux has been looking, but it's very difficult to get past. He finally worked his way, because at Brands Hatch, when you want to overtake somebody, it's anything up to a 2-lap plan in which you have to drop back, get everything right, and make a run at the car in front. He had done this run successfully, and he was balked by a car coming out of the pits. It wasn't the car coming out of the pits' fault. He was keeping over his pace, but he happened to be where Arnoux wanted to go.
But it looks to me now as though Niki Lauda is starting to close. The gap was greater than it was. It's 2.37 seconds now, and I noticed that Alain Prost seemed to have a bit of a slide at the front, and Niki Lauda is gaining visibly on him now. Look at this, it was 2.37 seconds when this race lap started. We are on lap 27 now, and we're going to see a change of leadership, I predict, very shortly. And that will get Niki Lauda's tail up very high indeed as he goes past and passes his teammate and takes the lead. Niki Lauda, and he's pulling away from Prost, who is going very slowly indeed. What sort of trouble is Alain Prost in? It can't be tires for the speed difference to be as dramatic as that. And Piquet takes him. Piquet's it's back into second place. Alain Prost has got a problem. It might be gearbox. It might be a turbo leak. It might be an intercooler problem. I don't know what it is. But now Sura has also passed Prost. And Sura, good as he is in the Arrows BMW, would not normally be passing Alain Prost if he hadn't got a very real race problem.
Yes, whatever Prost's problem is, there's nothing visible on the car. We can only speculate. I suspect he'll be coming to the pits as he rounds clearways. Now, we just have to hope, for the sake of the race, that it's something that they can fix fairly easily. If it's suspension orientated, of course, it's unlikely they can do anything about it now. The tyre change is routine anyway. They always do that when you come in. But Prost, yes, he's beckoning. He wants to talk to somebody because he's got to explain what the problem is. And it could possibly have been a puncture. That's the only thing I can think. Ah, no, that's John Barnard bending over the car, the designer of the McLaren, who should be a pretty happy man designing such a superior chassis. But no, the problem looks terminal. They're having a bit of a chat now. They're pushing the car forward, and I have a nasty feeling that Prost is going to take no more serious part in this race.
Alain Prost is out, no points for Prost, and this is the challenge and the incentive for the man that you are looking at now, Niki Lauda, because if he can win this race and get 9 World Championship points, he would only be 1.5 points in the World Championship behind his teammate Alain Prost, and Prost's problem was gearbox. Gear change and leakage problems, I suspect. Anyway, he was unable to change gear properly, and that accounted for the dramatic slowing of the car. And Niki Lauda is going to catch Alboreto, Arnoux and De Cesaris. There you just saw them. Now, this could be Nelson Piquet's opportunity to close, because Niki Lauda is going to have a great deal of trouble in getting past the 2 Ferraris. I think that Nelson Piquet will very quickly pass indeed he does so as I talk to you. So he will be able to close the gap between himself and Niki Lauda, and he might even get past. We are on lap 34 out of 60. Andrea De Cesaris has not exactly made it easy for the Ferraris to get past him because they're still behind him. So we're going to get a real roadblock now of 5 cars. Now there's De Cesaris. Alboreto and Arnoux, Niki Lauda the race leader, second place Nelson Piquet. This is now lap 35, and Lauda is almost up with Arnoux.
The interesting thing, we were watching Piquet around most of the corners then, is that Piquet looks very, very comfortable indeed. He is not using all the road and the curves. He's driving very smoothly and looks as if he's got something to spare, should it come down to the wire at the end of the race. Now, Lauda as Murray says, it's going to have a lot of problems, because this battle that Lauda is now following, going through Hawthorns there, are going to be so busy arguing with each other that they might not notice Lauda coming in the mirrors. Lauda has caught them very quickly, and he's now already being held up. His first real opportunity to pass will be going into Paddock Bend. That's still 3 corners away. In the meantime, as he gets held up, Nelson Piquet should be getting closer.
7th, 8th and 9th, 1st and 2nd. Nelson. Lauda pulls up and he's past the first Ferrari, or is he? He's past René Arnoux. He's now up, he's past the 9th man. He's now going to close on Michele Alboreto. Is Arnoux going to let Nelson Piquet through? And there, Andrea De Cesaris is passed by Alboreto, who goes up into 7th place. Down to 8th goes De Cesaris, who has got the leader behind him, who has passed the 9th place man, René Arnoux, who is followed by Nelson Piquet.
And you've just been happy to witness the most spectacularly bad piece of driving by De Cesaris that you could really want to see, who either didn't notice Alboreto, and there goes Lauda nipping past, either didn't notice Alboreto, which is pretty unforgivable considering Alboreto had been right behind him for the last 20 laps or whatever, and so he really ought to know he's there, or else didn't want to notice, because they were very lucky there wasn't a major accident. When the wheels rub, which they didn't on this occasion, cars fly in the air and turn over, which is very nasty, and they were lucky that the wheel only touched the side pod of the car and was able to bounce off.
So, the Ferrari of Michele Alboreto, the Italian, and through goes Niki Lauda. Now, what's the gap between Lauda and Piquet? And is Piquet going to get past Alboreto any more easily than Niki Lauda did? As you see, Niki Lauda with 1 minute 13.9 is the fastest man on the circuit, still 1.6 seconds outside Didier Pironi's 1980 with skirts on the car lap record, and this is Piquet's chance. And he's straight past Alboreto. It was easier for him to get past than it was for Lauda. Now, Lauda comes through and completes the lap now. Piquet does so now, and the gap is 1.7 seconds. There's Derek Warwick, who is in 3rd position in this part of the race, as again René Arnoux challenges Andrea De Cesaris, who is in 8th position. René Arnoux 9th, 7th ahead of both of them. Michele Alboreto and Derek Warwick staying with them in 3rd place on the same lap, but almost a full lap ahead of them, only a car's length clear of René Arnoux, and Niki Lauda still leads. This is lap 42 in this rivetingly interesting 60 lap second part of the British Grand Prix, as the Ligier with its Renault engine, the Ferrari with its V6 turbo Ferrari engine, and the Renault powered, of course, Renault of Warwick go round Druids Hill Bend together. Warwick past Arnoux.
Yes, well, the race now has developed a definite pattern. Lauda has suddenly, after a long struggle with Nelson Piquet, has managed to establish some sort of superiority. He's pulled away. I think it was a combination of the fact that Lauda has been going forever quicker, piling on the pressure, although only marginally quicker each time. At the same time, I think Nelson Piquet has probably slowed down a bit, and I suspect that his tyres are lasting the distance as well as Lauda's. Remember, although they're on the same make of tyre, they're both on Michelin tyres, they are on different compounds.
So, Lauda, Piquet, Warwick, De Angelis, Senna.
Yes, we've got 2 battles going on here, because we've got De Angelis and Senna, who are fighting for 4th place, and in fact, and there goes De Angelis, who squeezed past De Cesaris, to lap him, incidentally, because the other pair is the De Cesaris Arnoux battle, which is a lap down and battling for 8th place. So it's 2 battles all tangled up into one.
So Senna is now right almost in the wheel tracks of Elio De Angelis in the JPS Lotus. There he goes. The battle for 4th position. And a great tribute to Ayrton Senna. We expect this sort of performance from Elio De Angelis. 4th position, because he's done so well, so consistently during the season, and is after all in 3rd place in the World Championship. Senna we knew was brilliant when we watched him in Formula Ford 1600 and 2000, and then last year become the British Formula 3 champion. But he has taken to Formula 1 in the Tolman with its low-budget, Brian Hart designed and built turbo engine like a duck to water, and you can see that he's closing up in the Tolman Hart now on Elio De Angelis, who took Andrea De Cesaris to lap him so concisely on the previous lap, and I think that Ayrton Senna is going to move up to 4th position very shortly. That's car number 19, the Tolman, with the white and red body top. The man who finished 2nd and got fastest lap at Monaco, and most people think would have won had the race gone another lap. Indeed, he certainly would have. 6th in South Africa, 7th in Canada, 8th in Belgium. So he already has 2 World Championship finishes to give him 4 points, because he only got half points at Monaco because of the shortened race. Challenging Elio De Angelis in the John Player Special Lotus for 4th position, with ahead of them Niki Lauda now on lap 55, followed by Nelson Piquet, 3rd Derek Warwick, 4th and 5th the battle that you see, and in 6th position it's Patrick Tambay, who has been lapped by the leader. Now watch, this is where Senna could, and he does, go through on the inside to take De Angelis in exactly the same way that De Angelis took De Cesaris a couple of laps ago, and surely Elio must have been ready for that, but ready or not, he had to give way. And look at the gap now that Ayrton Senna, with his 4-cylinder Hart turbo engine punching away behind him, has pulled out over the new 5th place man Elio De Angelis. So in 4th position, Ayrton Senna.
Yes, and Senna coming up, just moving over to the inside line now to outbrake De Angelis into Paddock Bend. Senna's car is handling a lot better. He actually had to hit the brakes in Hawthorns on the last lap, and he's got a lot more grip, and he just swept by there. He had the line, and in fairness, De Angelis didn't make a silly fight of it. I think he realised that Senna had got into superior things.
And Piquet seems to be in trouble. He's just passed the pits, going very slowly into Paddock Bend. Nelson Piquet is going very slowly and has been passed by Derek Warwick, who moves up into 2nd position in the Renault in this part of the race. And don't forget that Warwick is 3rd overall, and it looks as though he could finish 2nd overall if Piquet can't keep going quickly enough to prevent the gap between himself and the new 2nd place man Derek Warwick building. There is the, for whatever reason, stricken Brabham, obviously going very slowly indeed in comparison with the speed it normally goes at this point of the circuit, which is to say into the left-hander at Surtees. And I think Nelson Piquet's race is almost run. That's an oil flag out there, and the reigning world champion looks as though again he is going to fail to finish a Grand Prix. And Elio De Angelis is actually slowing. His engine sounds very rough indeed. There is De Angelis, and you can see how much slower he is going, and René Arnoux is going to drive past him, and he does so. So we've now got 2 very sick cars on the circuit, both of them hoping for a points finish. Lauda clearing the left-hander at Stirling's to come through and finish his 59th. and start his last victorious lap, if he goes the full 2.61 miles at Brands Hatch, and that will give him his third British Grand Prix victory. This quiet Austrian, who is enormously popular with the British crowd. He won in 1976 for Ferrari, he won in 1982 for McLaren when it had the Ford DFV engine, and it looks, problems accepted, as though he's going to finish for McLaren with the McLaren-inspired TAG engine, and that is going to be an incredible record for the new TAG V6 Turbo. Of course, it will have won 6 of this year's 10 Grand Prix. There is the second place man overall, Derek Warwick. Ayrton Senna is now third in this part of the race and overall. De Angelis is still holding on in 4th place. Nelson Piquet is still there in 5th place but has been lapped, and Patrick Tambay is in 6th position. And Lauda is now about to lap Elio De Angelis as he comes through into clearways for the last time.
And Senna has been catching Warwick hand over fist, and if Warwick's in any sort of trouble, he could catch him before the end of the lap.
Lauda wins. Niki Lauda waves his hand, takes the checkered flag, and has won the British Grand Prix for the 3rd time in his career, to move within 1.5 points of leadership. And Patrick Tambay's engine or something has blown, and he's out of the race on the very last lap. And there is the fire extinguisher. It's a turbo, it must be a turbo, and Patrick Tambay knows the signs, gets the marshal, and here is Warwick finishing in 2nd place overall in the British Grand Prix, and that is Derek Warwick's second place of the year. He's back in the points. Truly a British Grand Prix to remember, one that I'll certainly never forget. Drama before the race, drama at the beginning, the middle and the end, but culminating in another magnificent victory for Niki Lauda to make him the top World Championship point scorer of all time. So, victory for Niki Lauda, 2nd Derek Warwick, 3rd Ayrton Senna, 4th Elio De Angelis, 5th Michele Alboreto, and 6th Rene Arnoux. And that means that in the Drivers' Championship, Prost leads now by only 1.5 points from his teammate Niki Lauda, with Elio De Angelis in striking distance of 2nd with 26.5 points. Arnoux 4th, Rosberg 5th, Warwick in 6th place, and Nelson Piquet 7th. In the Constructors' Championship, McLaren now lead Ferrari by an incredible 33 points, with JPS Lotus 3rd, Renault 4th, Williams 5th, and Brabham in 6th position. But today belonged to Niki Lauda with his 22nd Grand Prix win. Talking now to Barry Gill.
Niki Lauda, very many congratulations. I don't know what to congratulate you on most. Your 3rd British Grand Prix victory, more points than anyone in history, and you've closed up on the World Championship. Which gives you the most pleasure?
Close up on the championship, because that's important to me, because I only finished 3 races so far, so I had to make up a lot of points, and thank God I made them today.
What did you think when you saw your teammate vanishing?
I was sure not happy, because Alan is my teammate, so I wish that we would both finish. But I didn't expect him to make no points, so for me it's alright, the result.
It has really opened up the championship, hasn't it, Niki?
Yeah, thank God. I mean, it was very important to me to win that race, and I came here really trying hard to win it, and thank God I did.
And a word, Niki, on having scored more championship points than anybody in Grand Prix history.
Nothing I can say about it, so I'm not here for the statistics really. I'm more happy about the 9 points.
So justifiably delighted Niki Lauda, who'll be hoping to continue today's success in Germany in 2 weeks' time.
The news on